Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 50 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to start a business based on your passions? Maybe you've traveled to some amazing location and wondered what it would be like to live there and work there. And so you're in for a treat because today I talked to Liloa Akoi, who I met when I was in Maui, Hawaii. She is a mom, she is an entrepreneur, and she has a passion for Hawaiian living, plants, skincare, and so much more. So listen in today as she shares how she was inspired to start a business around her passions and how she continues to dream. All right, so I'm so excited to have you on, Liloa. And for those of you who might not know, I met her when we were having our Hawaiian adventure in Maui. And I connected with her during a lei making ceremony and workshop. And the whole concept of all the things that you wanted to do with Hawaiian living and with the business that you were already working on and where you wanted to grow, which is so interesting to me. So I wanted to bring you on so that you could share with folks a lot more about this idea that you have, or even just what it means to live Hawaiian style, or to have this aesthetic, or to have this lifestyle that is based around Hawaiian living. And I think it's just so unique. So why don't you share with us a little bit about how you started thinking about this idea of this business created around Hawaiian living?
Yeah, for sure. First off, thank you, May, for allowing me to be a guest in your podcast. I'm super excited to share just the different knowledges that I have got from growing up in Hawaii and being an entrepreneur and all of these things, a mommy in general. I originally started my business, Ulupono Wellness, in 2016. I was about 20 years old. I had just had a baby. I did my pregnancy and my first year of life with him on my own. And, at the point in time, I was, feeling unempowered. I was a little bit frightened. I didn't know what to expect in motherhood. And all I knew is I wanted to stay home with my child. I didn't want to send him to daycare. I wanted to be with him all the time. And so I started to look at, the different resources that I had and the different things that I had, the tools that I had in my belt that I could turn around and make an income from. And so I started to look at what it is in my life that I needed. I needed to be more empowered. I needed to have a light in my life where I was like, okay, like I feel good. I can get up today and I can do what I need to do. I can be the mommy that I need to be, but I can still be this powerful woman. And so I started to create body scrubs with essential oils and different types of oils and sugars and coffees. And it just made me feel like a brand new woman. I'd get into the shower feeling all gross and icky, and I'd use my body scrub and I would just get out feeling ready to accomplish the day. And that kind of turned into making leis. I had learned how to make leis from my grandmother growing up when I was really young. And it's a very empowering thing to put on a beautiful lei that you've not only made, but the colors are beautiful and it's literally a crown on your head. And to embody that. And so it kind of turned into lei making, and it just kind of tumbled from there. But the real reason I kind of started out was to empower myself, but empower other women around me, and to use the resources that I had to do that. So that's where I had started, and it's turned into a whole thing of its own. So many years later.
Yeah, and I think that for many of us, the genesis or the start of any kind of like new business or change that we're making in our lives comes from some big transition. And one of these really big transitions can be having kids, and how that shifts your life or creates this need and desire to stand up in a bigger way so that you can now provide. And I think that we have moved into this new era where so many women want to be the ones that are really independent. Maybe they are, the breadwinners, maybe they're not, but the sense of independence and empowerment really translates, especially when you have kids and you want to be that role model and that example. So I honor that. And I think it's so beautiful and such a chord that will resonate, I think, with lots of folks when they start to hear, okay, yeah, that's me too. When I started, making my career shifts, a lot of what I was thinking too was this around this idea of how can I be with my kids more?
Right.
Or how can I prioritize what I say is a priority in my life? So I love that. So when you think about Hawaiian living and all that entails, and for many of us, we think of Hawaii as this probably tourist destination or this really beautiful island. But what actually makes Hawaiian living unique, especially coming from you, someone who actually lives there all the time and was born and raised there?
Yeah. I think that, being somebody who was born and raised here in Hawaii and who can trace my lineal descendants on paperwork like back 8, 9, 10, 12 generations here in Hawaii, there's a deep understanding of what we call kuleana. And that's just like responsibility. And not only responsibility, like in modern day times, responsibility to our families and responsibility to ourselves and the things that we have, our possessions, but also like stewardship and responsibility for the land that provides us what we need. The mountains and the ocean. Um, when I think about, being somebody that's deeply rooted here in Hawaii, it brings me back to the term of akua aina. And akua aina it means like a backcountry person. And a backcountry person in terms of like a very deep connection with like the land and also the ocean. Um, I know this is like a spiritual podcast, so it's cool to talk about this kind of stuff. But I deeply believe that my DNA is rooted in the mountain, in the ocean, in the fish, in the plants of the area that I grew up in. Not only because my lineal descendants have come from that area, but because we go there and we take care of those things. And I think that's kind of what sets Hawaii apart from a lot of other places. A lot of indigenous cultures like believe that deep connection with, land and ocean and just resources. But I think that's what sets us apart really in Hawaii is understanding that deep kuleana of I need to take care of, the native species. I need to take care of the land. I need to take care of the resources in our ocean, not because we're a small island and so our resources are limited, but also because our DNA is embedded there. And for me personally, like I can hear the mountain, I can hear the ocean. And what I mean by that is, if there's a lot of construction going on in a place that is very rural, that doesn't see a lot of that kind of stuff, there's a sense of a cry for like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Like a sense of chaos that happens because this bulldozer comes in and it turns things up and it just is like, what's happening? It's different than what the rhythm of nature understands there. And because I'm a kua'aina, because I have kuleana to that land in that area, I can hear these things. And I think that's kind of what sets us apart from other places, is just the connection of people with resources, people with land, people with plants, people with animals, and that very intertwinedness of everything here in Hawaii that makes it so rich. But yeah.
That is so good, because I know that when we were doing the lei making workshop together, and that is how we met, you had such a presence around the plants and around the process and around why this is important and how you
Right.
harvested, these plants. So I think the connection that you're talking about really is something that's missing for a lot of folks sometimes in a much more busy life. We
Mm-hmm.
feel this loss of stillness, or this loss of this, like, where is my north? Where is the true north? And sometimes we're just so used to hearing all the noise that we're not even remembering what it ever felt like to not hear it. And sometimes it takes us going away or going somewhere else or coming back to a certain place that seems much more connected to even remember, I think, what that feels like. So this
Right.
whole process, sometimes I think, when we were talking about the lei ceremony, you were saying that, hey, you guys are actually interested in the plants and the process and the history behind it, versus it's just some flowers that you put on your head. And I think, like anything else, it can just be a piece of dirt, or it can just be grass, or it can just be a tree, or it can just be an animal, or it can be something else, or it can be
Right.
the way you connect, right? And I think that when we make the meaning into something that is much more connected, we act in ways that are probably more helpful to not just ourselves, but to others as well. And so I'd
Yeah.
love to hear, and I think it would be so interesting for people to hear about, your history with plants, with leis, and your connection there. So tell us more about that.
For sure. I wanted to touch into something small real quick right before we move on,
Yeah.
about finding that stillness, in the busy life. Like even here in Hawaii, I know I was talking to you about this, that sometimes I'll think about, like, when is the last time I went to the beach? And realizing that you get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that you realize I live 20, 30 minutes from a beautiful beach and I haven't gone there in a month. Like, what's wrong with me? And I think it's really about just taking a step back and taking that breather and just being really conscious of your surroundings. Like, even if you're in a busy city, like maybe you like tea, or maybe you like a cup of cocoa, like consciously picking out where you get these things from and sitting down and taking that time to just have that stillness and to connect with, okay, maybe I got my tea from Hawaii, or maybe I got my cacao plant from here, or whatever it may be. Like, think about the small little things where you resource and then you also consume. And that kind of goes back to, like, believing that my DNA is embedded in the mountain, is I think that whatever you consume as well, that DNA also gets embedded in you. And so you can slow down that pace. You can find that center of that center of stillness, even in the hustle and bustle of everyday life or in a city in general. But yeah, I just wanted to add that it's about the small little things too. Um,
Yes. Yeah. And I know that we are definitely our own worst enemies when it comes to that. I think pretty much anyone can find a sliver of peace somewhere in their lives, or a sliver of a moment, or 10 minutes to breathe, or 5 minutes
right,
to feel the sun on their face. And we don't always do it. And so it's taking that idea and actually living into it that becomes a huge unlock for so many of us. We want this giant transformation in our lives, and these big businesses or these big paychecks or these big homes or this whatever, when
Right.
really what we're looking for is the peace and the
Mm-hmm.
stability and the
Yeah.
stillness that is already there.
Right. And
It's already there.
and that just goes back to, it's all about the small little steps. It's that accumulate to make those big steps, to get those big paychecks, to get those big homes. It's all the small little things that we're doing in life. Um, but yeah, a little bit more about the lei stuff that I'm doing. I started making leis, the haku leis that we were working on, when I was 7 years old. And we have this thing called May Day here in Hawaii, where we make leis and we dance hula, and it's like a whole school event, and the parents come, the grandparents come, and it's just like an exciting thing that we do. It's usually on May 1st, and we have lei making days. And I remember one time that I didn't have a lei and a needle, and my grandma was staying over with us, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, like you don't have a lei and needle? That's okay. Like we'll make a hakule." I'm like, I don't know what that is, right, at this point. And so we go out and we pick some stuff from the yard, and we go and get a bouquet, and she gets some raffia, and she starts to show me how to wrap it and how to prep my flowers. And during elementary school, that was the only lei that I made after that. Always wanted to make hakules because my grandma showed me how, because it was exciting, because it was different than other people. And I remember sitting in through recess throughout the whole day working on my hakule, because it would take me so long to do it, and everybody would be done with their leis, but Liloa would be in here at recess wrapping her lei. And over time it just got easier and easier, but it was always a way for me not only to connect with like the aina or the land around me, but also to connect to my grandmother, who was a really important person in my life. Um, but that's kind of, how it, a little bit more about the lei making process of how I got started with that.
So what is a hakule, and how is that different than what you were describing before?
So a hakule is actually, in Hawaiian terms, a hakule is when you take like plant matter and you braid it together, and you put like flowers and ferns and different type of fauna and foliage and stuff like that into the braided material. And nowadays in modern Hawaii, a lot of people called hakules. What we were doing is when you take it and you wrap it, but that's kind of just like a lei po'o. It's a vili lei, which means to like twist and to wrap. Um, so hakule, lei po'o, same thing, flower crown. They all have the same smell, a little bit different structurally, but pretty much the same thing.
They're beautiful. And we ended up getting our vows renewed, and you helped us make some beautiful leis for Jay and the girls. So that was so amazing. And they're just so beautiful. And I remember when we went out to Hana afterwards, we like kept thinking, I want to wear this lei. Like it's just so pretty. And I feel like like what am I doing with it if I'm not wearing it? But who wears a lei around? And then I saw someone out at a restaurant, and it was his birthday, and he had a lei on, he had all sorts of flowers on. I ended up seeing him at a food truck the next day, in it was like a coffee food truck, and he was still wearing it, and he had all the stuff, and I was like, I remember you from this restaurant. And so is this something that you can consistently wear anytime?
Yeah, so culturally, we give leis to people like to honor them. So birthdays, anniversaries, engagements. If you haven't seen somebody for a long time, if they're visiting, basically any kind of congratulation or any type of way to show your aloha or your love for somebody, you give them a lei. Um, and that's very culturally appropriate, whether you wear it on your neck, whether it's a hakule. And what that resembles, especially if somebody makes it for you, is their like affection for you, or that it's your special day. And so if somebody gives you a lei say it's your birthday and they give you a lei, and a whole bunch of aunties and uncles come into the house and they all give you a lei, and like your leis are all the way up here, all the way up to your neck, like you can hardly see with them. um, it's culturally a little bit rude to take off the leis and to not wear them, because they were given to you with love, and they were given to you because the person cared about you and loved you. And so I like that the guy was wearing his leis still, because it shows that he just really appreciated whoever gave it to him, or he was just really like happy and excited to have been given those leis. A lot of time people will dry their leis out and wear them on their hats later, or display them in their home, whether they put it on a picture or they have a tree that they like to put it on, just because it's such a special gift to give somebody something that's not only handmade, but like is given with so much aloha and so much love.
That's so beautiful, because I was so sad that we couldn't bring ours back. I kept thinking, oh, maybe I'll dry it, but you can't bring any plants back from
Right.
Hawaii. So couldn't save it for forever, but we do have photos of them and they are so pretty.
And they
So
are beautiful photos.
they are. And so in addition to plants, you are also really interested in skincare and hair care. If you guys ever look her up on her Instagram feed, she's always showing you new ways to take care of yourself in those ways. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on hair care, skincare. It's a topic, at least skincare, that I'm pretty obsessed about, and having clean beauty products.
Nice. Yeah, that's basically the bottom line of what's super important for me, is having clean beauty products. So I just always grew up, with non-toxic, or use this oil or this herb or this tea. And so, I'm always on the search for products that are clean, that are not have a lot of chemicals in it. Like ideally, if I can use it on my plants and it's not going to kill it, then I'm good to use it on myself. And so that's basically the big thing with me with hair and skincare, is just the clean topical products that we can be using. And not only that, like I am very passionate about like nutrition and like holistic medicine. And so treating the body not only on the outside, but basically from the inside out is what's super important for me. Because anything that's happening in your gut, the amount of water that you're drinking, if you have a clean gut, those kind of things are going to affect your hair and your skin, your emotions, your hormones, any traumas that have happened to you. People lose hair because they're so stressed out sometimes, or, their hormones start going crazy and they start all these breakouts. And so kind of looking at a whole body wellness for hair and skin and lifestyle in general is what's super important for me. So using clean products and then really treating yourself from the inside out, whether you're talking about your gut, whether you're talking about your heart, whether you're talking about your mindset and the way that you view life or the way that you think about things. I think that those are all the root causes of any problems that we're having in our life. But yeah, that's kind of my perspective on hair and skincare.
Yeah, and I think that similarly, I grew up in a household where I wasn't necessarily purposely not using non-toxic, because I don't think that was a thing back in the day. But my mom was just very much like, food wise, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
really colorful food. It's probably not real. Let's not eat that. And really pushing the herbs and medicine, probably also because she has a Chinese background and she is Chinese. And so using other tools and ways of treating like the same thing. And I even remember, I don't know if this is TMI for you guys who are listening, but I remember when you get to of age and you're like, should I be wearing deodorant or antiperspirant and all those things? And she was just like horrified. She was just like, your body naturally is trying to sweat. Why would you try to stop it? And I just remember, I think there will always be these moments in your life where you can be influenced one way or the other. And if in that moment she was like, yes, you should cover it up with all these smells and things because it's like yucky or it's not so good. Here's all the stuff versus questioning it and saying, hey, what is naturally happening in our bodies and how do we, let that be more natural instead of covering it all up. I think that approach is totally the whole like inside out approach, right? Like, how do you
Right.
just have good skincare routines so that your skin is nice instead of covering it all up with things because you're not taking care of the root cause of the issue.
Right. And I think we're having a big switch too, where people are kind of switching from, okay, I want to cover it up, to, okay, this doesn't seem right. Like there must be something else going on. Like, how can I figure out what else is going on? And I think we just see that huge shift happening, at least on my side, it seems like that. So,
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons on Instagram I stopped using filters, which is not easy because sometimes you're like, oh, my skin is breaking out today, or I have some sunspots, or whatever it is that is happening. But it's really challenged me to think about how I show up more authentically so that I'm like the same person in real life as I am on the screen. And it's just,
mm-hmm.
I think, again, one of these ways in which we start to talk about how true we are to ourselves or how in alignment we are to ourselves. So, yeah, sometimes breaking out or not perfect skin actually is the norm. And I think that it's healthier for people to just understand that that's okay. And that's just also part of life sometimes. But it's also hard because it's so easy to just put the filters on. Your skin looks so good.
Yes, I love that you bring that up. I think that's a huge thing that everybody struggles with. It's so easy. It's such an easy click of the button to be able to put that filter on, but we're all not perfect and we're all human. And if we can embrace that, then, we're headed in a good direction,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yes.
So when you think about all the different ideas that you have for the work that you want to do and the entrepreneur inside of you, what do you think about your next moves? Because, something that I'm passionate about are career changes. I think that we don't always have to stay in the same thing forever. And the typical person actually changes their careers 5 to 7 times in their lives, and not jobs. I'm saying like their careers. And I also don't think that there's just one happy ending that we're all supposed to have in our lives. So, what else do you see yourself doing in your life? And what are some of the other passions that you have that you want to explore?
Yes, I'm super excited for this topic. I think it's important with anything that we're looking at doing to, bring an income into our life, to not only look at it for the money value, but to also look at it with the impact that we're helping other people with. And also, is it filling your cup? Like, bottom line, are you also filling your cup while you are making an income, making an impact? And that's probably the biggest thing for me, when I'm looking at other different passions that I have and other careers that I may possibly want to explore. I am a licensed massage therapist I don't practice. I practice on my family and friends, and I use the techniques that I have in the different things and the different passions that I have in my life. I'm also an artist. I really enjoy design. So I've had thoughts about, interior design. I just love tiling and paints and, plants and carpets and like all of the interior design, everything. Like, I find myself scrolling on Pinterest for hours, just making little collages of, I don't know what, future things, future projects that I may have. I am very passionate about my plants and landscaping. My family has a whole landscaping business, but I've always been really passionate about the plants there, the flowers, the herbs, the tea leaf, the ferns, the trees. And not only those things, but like, can we pick it? Can we eat it? can we use it in our kitchen? Like, how can we be using our landscape that's all around us in our everyday lives? So that's another thing that I'm hugely passionate about. We talked about podcasts and me possibly wanting to start a podcast. I like to talk a lot and I find myself babbling in my head. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that was pretty good. Maybe I should put it on a podcast. I bet you somebody would listen to that and someone would enjoy that. Um, so that's for sure something that I would probably like to explore, especially after today's little podcast. It's been really fun and it's exciting getting to connect. And I hope that something I said on this podcast resonates with somebody out there. And then just in general, like nutrition and like holistic approaches on things, you know, like I kind of want to be a holistic nutritionist or have my own essential oil line or something where I'm not only taking the plants that I'm passionate about and, you know, making them readily available for people to use in their everyday lives, in their kitchen or their food to make good food, but then to also be able to help them in using it for medicine, for taking plant medicine and just turning people's lives around with it, because it's something that I don't think we look at as like, oh yeah, like an essential oil can do that for me, or this, just changing this part of my diet can change my whole entire life. And I think that that's just a very big key component to our lives that we don't look at too often, is the nutrition and the things that we're putting into our bodies, and the plants and the herbs that have already been put here, that have been growing forever, that, you know, we should be taking advantage of and using for our wellness. That's something hugely passionate for me. And then the last one that I wrote down was a Christian album. I kind of have always loved singing and I've always loved music. I'm not too good of a songwriter and I don't really know how to play instruments, but my other half, he has learned how to play guitar and he can play ukulele. And sometimes he plays and I sing, and it's just like a really empowering thing. You know, it makes your spirit feel all excited and whoa, like, yay, we're doing this. Like, we actually made some music. And so eventually at some point in my life, I would love to be able to put out some kind of like little Christian album like that, whether it's me singing other people's songs or singing original songs. Only God knows.
I love all of this because sometimes we get so stuck on thinking that it's not even possible, that we don't even remember how much fun it could actually be to just try some of these things out. And so I love that you had so many different things that were all somewhat related, but also completely different. And I felt that same way in my life. And I don't think that our interests necessarily disappear. I think that there are times and places where an obstacle unlocks and suddenly that becomes an opportunity, or you have momentum in this area that maybe you didn't have before, and then you go with it. But I think that our gifting is when it comes through us and we express it in our way, because it's not like plants are this new thing, but your love for it and your interest in it and the way that you're excited about it brings life to this idea. And I just think that when we can tap into the energy and the passion behind the idea, we can really allow it to get expressed in our own unique way. And then we can get out of our heads and stop thinking like, oh, it's been done before, or like, I'm not the only interior designer that's out there, or I'm sure someone has done this. And I know I've had these thoughts myself in my head, why bother, right? If someone has already done it before you, or how can I be the expert in this? And then we don't give something that actually could, like you said, just be helpful. So yes, yes, and yes to all the things that you said. Put it on a list somewhere. And I'm sure that you will actually get through and experience more of those than you probably would have imagined. And that is so cool. So many inspirational ideas that you have out there.
Thank you. I have no idea how they will come to play, but I like what you say about, the thoughts of, oh, the world doesn't have a me yet. Okay, we have that industry, but it doesn't have a me yet. And we all have those special little gifts within us that other people don't have. And so, yeah, really going after your passions, regardless of what they are, because you have passion behind them, it gives it life. I really like that and resonates a lot with me.
Good. I'm glad. And I hope that you will share all the details when that new website comes out and we can all go on and find all your wellness products. I have used the scrubs that we made and I love it. And I just think that there is such a beautiful thing around taking care of yourself and doing it in a way that reminds you of maybe a certain place that you were at, or even having that intention of, where did this come from, and just thinking a little bit more about it. It infuses a different kind of energy as you take care of yourself. So share it with us when it all happens and we can all go out and support you here. All right.
Yes,
So
for sure,
before
for
we
sure.
wrap up, the one question that I want to ask you is, what do you think you're here to learn? And what do you think you're here to share?
Okay. So I thought about this one for a little while. And what I have come down to, what I think that I'm here to learn. And I'm a Christian, so I think that I've been put here to be more Christ-like in the thoughts of, being more loving and being more compassionate, and having servicehood and forgiving people and being committed to things and having patience and also being humble. And I think that just makes a whole well-rounded person in general, but more so allowing myself to be pruned or to be refined or to look at, where I'm falling short in some of these categories, or, maybe I'm not loving the lady that just honked at me passing in the car, or, somebody who did something to me years ago. But when I'm able to go in and look at these things and to be like, okay, I'm mad at them, or they did something to hurt me, or, I have resentment in my heart for them. The only person that really affects at the end of the day is ourselves and our hearts and our minds. It's a little seed that's been planted, that's a toxic seed, that's a weed in our garden. And those are just the tools that you can go in and identify and to pluck out all of those weeds so that you're growing this flourishing garden. And for me, that's what Jesus does. That's what Christ does, is he shows me the things that I need to let go of, or the people I need to forgive, or all of these kind of things, so that I can make my garden the most abundant that it could possibly be. And that kind of dives straight into, what am I here to share? And for me, I'm here to share the light of what Jesus is, and the hope and the love that he can give to us, regardless of whatever we've done in our life, whatever kind of sins we've committed, whatever kind of hurts that we've done to other people, whatever kind of guilt that we carry. All of those things are forgiven within us, and that our job is to just go into ourselves and to pluck out all of those weeds and to grow the best garden that we can, so that we can go out and we can spread his light to other people around us, to spread love, to spread hope, to spread, just love, and just in general, all of these good things that we have that are readily available for us that we don't necessarily tap into all the time. And I think that, especially right now in modern day, all of the social media and news and whatever is going on, all of the chaos happening around us, all of the coronavirus, everything, that it's important to love one another and care about one another and have compassion, because that's what's really going to keep us going at the end of the day, is all of those things in that community of light. And so that's kind of, what I feel like I've been put on earth to learn, and then to also share, and to just making an impact on people in a loving way. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much for being on here, Liloa. I want to just honor you for your absolute living in alignment with your truth. I think that that was one of the things that resonated with me the most, was that you seem to have this sense of knowing who you are and what you stand for and what you're here to do. And you can see that in all of the work that you do, and especially why you're here and what you're here to share. So I love it. And thank you so much. I'm so glad we crossed paths when we were in Maui together. And where can people find you if they wanted to follow you and reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you for all of that. I was very excited to jump on here and talk story with you today. I am on social media as modern nature underscore mama. That's kind of where I share everything at this point. So all of the stuff that we're talking about, all the lifestyle stuff, all the business stuff, all of everything is all on there. And I really like to make connections with people, get to know you guys. Just make a genuine connection, a friend if you need somebody to talk to, if you need some support, if you just want to reach out and say, hey, I'm in Maui, like whatever it may be, like go ahead and do that. I think that the connections of community and friendship are the strongest that we could have right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'll be, not going anywhere. But thank you so much for having me on your podcast today, May.
You're so welcome. So everyone go follow Liloa at modern nature underscore mama on Instagram. I will put your handle in the show notes as well, so people can click and link into it. And thank you. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful, blessed day.
So that's it, my friends, for this week. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Liloa and that inspired you to just start thinking about how easy it can be to change your career, to do the work that you love, and to have an amazing wealth of ideas for us to go after. And if you're interested in making the career change and taking the first step, you're going to want to sign up for my free Ultimate Career Change Starter Kit. You can find that at mayamson.com/career. And it's even for those who are just looking to love their jobs even more, and especially the resource for anyone that's a soon-to-be career changer. You'll learn the 3 decisions you need to make to get started on your career or job change. You'll learn 3 strategies to identify your strengths and your expertise if you don't know them already, and 3 ways to uncover your ideal role. So you can find this again at mayamson.com/career. I love you, my friends. All the links are in the show notes. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag at May Empson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayempson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.